Good morning, Columbus. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's daily dose of digital Torah inspiration here at Sinai Studios, Judaism Today. This week's Parsha deals with the biblical leper, the Mitzorah, the person who we're taught by tradition was required to distance themselves from the community because they spoke Lashon Hara, because they spoke negatively about somebody else. They spoke about someone else in a bad light. It would be it true or not true. They spoke Lashon Hara. And the Talmud says something incredible. It says no one is free from the sin of Lashon Hara. I probably don't need to tell you, all of us at some point in our lives, maybe even as soon as today, it's not ideal, but maybe even, very recently have stumbled in the sin of Lashon Hara, which is of course a terrible thing and goes against one of the central ethoses of the Torah, which is to guard our tongue. But I think there's an underlying concept to Lashon Hara, which is very important to consider. Lashon Hara makes us feel good, right? When you talk about someone else and you put them down, somehow by putting that person down, it makes us feel better. It makes us inflate our ego. And really, when seen from this perspective, what the Torah's, at least part of what the Torah's message is, as it relates to Lashon Hara, is that we shouldn't be putting others down to make us feel. That the purpose of life is that we should be comfortable in what we're doing. We should have the right sense of self, the correct sense of self, that we don't need to see others in a negative light to make us feel better about ourselves. In other words, the key, I believe, that lies in this week's Parsha is to see ourselves in a positive light, in a way that has the correct and proper self-esteem, to be sure not too haughty, but also not to be so lacking in ourselves that we need to look for artificial ways to inflate our ego. The lesson of Lashon Hara is, the lesson of the Mitzorah is when we have the proper sense of self, then we don't need to put anyone else down to feel better about ourselves. If we work on that and we see ourselves for who we really are, for our intrinsic self-worth, for our intrinsic value, as someone whose God has invested in for all these years and given us a holy neshama so we can achieve great things, then that's all we need to focus on. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Judaism Today. If you did, please make sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, or check into our podcast wherever podcasts are listened to, and we look forward to hearing from you more.